Hey guys, this is the Hail Mary podcast, episode number 2. Today I am going to be joined by Colin Byrne. I'm just about to give him a shout right now. Stay tuned. Colin is a friend I met while over in Ireland when I was training there just a while ago. Let me just make sure he's here. I have sent him the invite. Just give me one moment. While we're waiting for that, to thank my sponsors in the meantime, Haga. HAGA, a company from Guam, as well as Strike Fightwear. And I'd like to just thank the SVG family, Straight Blast Gym. And if you ever want to come train with us in Toronto, it's sbgtoronto.com, and we would love to have you over there. I just sent Colin the invitation right now. We had some technical issues to start. I hope he can come on. Just give me one moment. Colin, are you there by any chance? Okay, see, there seems to be some technical issues still. Let me try just one more time. You got to bear with me, guys. It's a whole new thing I'm trying here. Hey.
We're on.
Colin, you there? All right, we are live. We finally have my man from Shinobi.
Let's go.
All the way. It's not much. How are you today?
Good. Just finished training.
What did you guys work on? What did you guys work on today?
Angles.
Oh, always working those angles, eh? Cutting the corner.
Well, I've been I suppose I've been on a journey since I got here, and I started to look at the smaller aspects of things. And lately I've been working on scrambles and the bit between the bit. So the bit between the 2 and the 3, not just 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. You know, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get there. But now I've been working on how to get from 2 to 3.
Having a thought process, having an actual thought rather than just movement.
Yeah, but also the scramble. And I think once you get to a certain level, the scramble is where all the action happens, because people are so familiar with the position or the move or what's next. What's the next process to get to 4 and 5, if you know what I mean. So I've been working a lot on with the stand-up, on the angles and the movement, and with the ground game, the scrambles and the bit between the bit, So that's what I'm working on today.
That is huge, and that's something, speaking of, I'm a huge fan of boxing. Anybody who enjoys stand-up doesn't like boxing or calls it dead, I find ridiculous. One of my favorite to watch right now is Nick Diaz, and watching his ability to constantly be always off an angle, off an opponent. Even when he's head on, he's slightly off is something that I think just creates such a more diverse attack, because being off of somebody, and I'm sure you can attest to this, when you hit somebody from an angle that they're not protecting, or you find them flat-footed, it shows you exactly how dangerous you can be when you're constantly never just straight up, and you're always just that slight angle coming over the top on them.
Yeah, to quote a good man, was whoever gets the angle gets the shot. Whoever gets to the angle gets the shot, and that you got to keep catching up all the time. So it's instead of just going forwards, backwards, reset. Now it's kind of like, don't let the guy reset and cut the angle. And I find there's a lot in that, and it just takes a lot of work and a lot of drilling. So the other thing I've been doing, Aaron, is I've been working on offensive, defensive drills. So you can't strike until the guy throws the first shot, and making the guy step on the jab. So instead of staying in the pocket, when someone steps on the jab, you have more time to move. So making it look like you're in range, but you're out of range. So he has to reach for the range, and then catching them on the way in. So I've been kind of trying to get a little bit discipline in when you strike, instead of just going in, throwing 1, 2, 3, and thinking about it more. So, and I find that's working better than just banging sparring all the time, So we've been doing that a lot and seeing the improvements with the guys, So it's been good.
Well, who we both know Owen Roddy over from SPG Ireland. He's an absolute Irish legend of MMA,
Yeah.
and we both can attest to watching his fights and seeing how he does that. He baits you in to throw that devastating knee, and we've seen him collapse guys multiple times.
I do have a broken rib from him.
You probably deserved
I
it.
do, yeah. Well, I kind of, he made me extend on a shot, and the knee was waiting for me, and I kind of rediscovered it lately, that kind of bump in my ribs. And I was wondering, what the fuck is that? And it's like, that's Owen Roddy. So yeah.
Yeah. I've taken a couple classes under Owen when I was over there. Watching him just work with the kids scares the crap out of me, knowing that how good those kids are going to be one day, regardless if they go down an MMA combat route. But just his movement, his thinking is so different. He's attacking not just the lead legs anymore. He's attacking the rear leg and everything. It's an absolute shame that we'll never ever see him compete in the UFC. But his influence will be there no matter what.
Well, I think I know Owen a long time now, and I got to train with him when he was fighting and spar with him and stuff like that. And so I've been on the back end of that, and I was there when he went off to American Top Team. When things were starting to happen, and he's a great guy, and he's one of those guys that when the dust clears, he's still there. And as a coach, he's brilliant, because a lot of guys, they might be good fighters, but they don't really get good at coaching, and coaching in itself is something you got to learn as well. You don't just automatically be good at explaining to someone why they can't hit a jab or a right straight or pass someone's guard or whatever. But he's a great coach, super coach, and super nice guy.
Well, yeah, 100%. And there's a reason why that he's been chosen to coach the kids. I mean, but he's one of the few guys who left fighting gracefully. He didn't leave sulking. He didn't leave and then fall into to anything bad, if you know what I mean. I mean, we've heard about it, we've read about it so many times. Like just today, Chris Laban just got sentenced to 120 days in jail for I think it was breaking a restraining order. So I mean, there's cases where fighters, after it's all done.
Sure, but were you surprised by Chris? You weren't surprised when you heard that news. It's not like, oh, shock.
No.
So he's one of those live cannons anyway. But I think I think a lot of the guys into the personality. Like, yeah,
much different.
Yeah, there's some guys that are just loose cannons, and they're gonna go off at some stage. And then there's other guys that they're just martial artists. When they stop, they're still martial artists. Just because they're finished fighting, they're still learning and they're still progressing and still passing on the knowledge. And that's the kind of thing that you're meant to do, right? You're meant to kind of learn and give it back, instead of taking it all and hanging on to it.
There's outlaws who for sure are going to be outlaws until the bitter end, and unfortunately, fortunately, nobody was hurt in Chris Laban's case recently. But when you're an outlaw and when you're willing to live on the live by the gun, basically, in many ways, it's going to catch up to you.
How's your training going? What are you up to?
Amazing. I mean, I just worked the Pan Am Games, so training was bothered by that, but in a good way, because all my financials are always put towards training, and for myself, I'm training anywhere 5 to 7 sessions a week. Varies of I'm trying to get in 2 times a week with weight training, and then about 3 to 4 times in the gi. 2 to 3 times no gi, MMA practice and stuff. But it's been consistent now for about 3 years, where it's about 6 days solid, and anywhere between 6 to 8 sessions a week is what I feel I can do best right now.
And are you aiming to some sort of competition aspect of stuff, like more BJJ or MMA, or just want to compete in different aspects of it? Or
what was so funny to me, and I like the question because it always gives me a bit of a chuckle, because like this past weekend I just watched the ADCC. I'm not sure if you got a chance to watch any of the jiu-jitsu this past weekend, but
I didn't hear it was that good.
No, there was it was funny because what they did was smart. They did the opening round stacked, so all the matchups you wanted to see, you got to see right away, and then the unsung heroes, the upsets happened. But but things like that inspire me to want to be the guy from SBG who one day goes in ADCC as this guy with no reason to be there, but goes in and does something and just adds another plaque and another staple to the ever growing SBG portfolio. I you know what I mean? And then with MMA, we're hoping, me and my coach have talked at it now a little bit more than before. We had a rule that I'd have to get my blue belt, and we're hoping that sometime in the fall is when we're going to finally do that. It's funny, people have asked me, oh, you've been a blue belt for forever. And a white belt for forever. And
Right.
it's just one of the dumbest questions. I don't see what the rush is. I'd rather be a blue belt without any questions than have lingering self-doubt about it. So, but MMA is for sure.
Yeah, because I get a lot of passing traffic through here, you know, so people on holidays, and I get to see what I wouldn't have seen if I stayed in Dublin, which is the different levels of people with the same grade as such, or the different systems and so forth. So I see a lot of people who are like blue, purple, brown, and black, and they vary a lot. And I think I was spoiled a little bit on the level of certain people that I'd met along the way. And then when I see people here and I roll with the guy and then the guy says he's a certain belt like purple or brown, I think, Jesus, you know, especially if you're not wearing a belt, you know, because I do a lot of no gi, and in the summer I've stopped rolling gi. In the summer it's just too hot, and you know, so no gi till maybe 2 more weeks and then back to gi. So
I for sure. I think you need to train in both, and there's some weird idea that seems to be around no-gi jiu-jitsu that it's not valid, or it's a fight between just two athletic guys, that it's not any longer a technical skill, a technical way of doing the art, which I find ridiculous, because you'll see guys like Gunnar Nelson, and then again you'll watch the ADCC and to think that's not technical and that's just, you know, your meat and potatoes, brutes, muscles and brawn. It is quite stupid. I don't get it. I don't know.
I think with gi, I suppose it's a lot of it's at a higher level. You know, the grips are super important, and you can't ignore them. I tend to be someone that just doesn't like gripping because it hurts my hands, and I like rolling. You know, it's kind of like surfing. I started trying to learn how to surf. I don't really like surfing, but I like sitting in the water. I don't like catching the wave, you know. But with the no-gi, I tend to get a bit more of a smoother roll. And I've got a guy over at the moment who's from Henzo's gym, who's a leg locker. So I've been watching my legs for the last while, because they're big into the leg lock game. That's become fashionable in Henzo. So this guy is like a high-level brown belt. Jeff is his name. Jeff Knight from Knight Industries 2000. You probably met him.
I gotta find the amount of talent right now that is being poured out of Henzo's no-gi classes. I mean, they're coached by Danaher, and I mean, I'm sure you've heard of John Danaher multiple times. They call him the Hannibal Lecter of jiu-jitsu, and I mean, you got Eddie Cummings coming out of there, Gary Tonin, like some of the most exciting people in jiu-jitsu. And when I watch the ADCC and I watch Eddie Bravo's Invitational, the future for jiu-jitsu especially is going to be no-gi. As much as I love the gi, and I'm somebody who respects it, who loves it, who thinks that the amount of skill and the amount of techniques you can acquire in it are beautiful. But yeah, I mean, it's a rash guard and shorts. I mean, that's going to set you about $60, and you can learn jiu-jitsu just the same way, I find.
Do you think though, with, you know, like Hickson came on the scene there a while ago, I you know, about starting up a new kind of system, and you know, that jiu-jitsu was starting to get into not what it was meant to be in the first place, which was, you know, you're trying to finish. Like his son always tried to finish more than points, and it became this kind of stalling 50-50 guard kind of, and it just became this game and stopped being combat as such, almost, you know. I would hope to see that it goes the way of submission only, but I don't know whether that's going to happen, or because if you look at like the Europeans or any of those IBB, whatever it's called, IBJJF or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
You still get more and more people showing up for those competitions, and they're raising their arms as champion of stalling or lying on top of somebody for 5 minutes. I got the takedown in the past, and that's it, and you're a champion of the world. Whereas I think I like the submission game, and I like the idea of submission only and somebody finishing a fight. Whether that's practical or not, I don't know if it is.
Well, no, but you've been. I mean, I'm not sure you've been doing jiu-jitsu for quite a while now, and the thing with it, if you and I are rolling and neither one of us submit the other one,
yeah,
do we really need a winner? Do we need to have one of our hands raised to feel validated in our game, or can we not say, you know what, you attacked very well, but hell, let's give our both of our defensive capabilities a round of applause too. It's one of those things. It's the sport of it. Sometimes I find, and it takes away from it because you have coaches yelling from the sidelines, hold position. There's only 30 seconds left. If you're up 6-7-0 and you got a minute and you're in dominant position, why aren't you trying to submit the person? I mean, in any professional sport now, we don't have ties anymore. I mean, we have them in soccer, but or football, but I mean, it's the thing though, right? It fascinates me that you need to have. If there's no definite ending, I mean, you want a 5-minute time limit. You know what I mean? You want a 5-7 minute limit. I don't get why we can't just say, hey, neither one of us won. How about we just keep rolling till someone submits the other person? But then you have time limits and all that junk, right?
Yeah, I think if someone comes up with a good system where I don't know, like I was listening to Eddie Bravo and he seemed to come up with for his invitational, I thought it was a good kind of system. I don't know how that invitational went because I didn't see it. I must say, as a jiu-jitsu geek, I'm not. I love jiu-jitsu, but I don't get lost in the competitions. I find them quite dull to watch. I like watching, MMA. I watch the odd match with jiu-jitsu, but a lot of the guys that train with me, they're big into watching, the ADCC, and they're big into watching the kind of the competitions. Where I like watching the new stuff, like the stuff that the Gracies are doing at the moment, and Metamoris, isn't it? And I'm excited about the Polaris thing as well. So
100%.
Those type of things I like. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I want to be entertained. Look, the way it's all prize fighting in the end. And if you ask me, it's the same structure. You have a good guy, you have a bad guy, you have what are they fighting for? You need reasons. Humans need a story, Yeah. If person A is just person A and person B just shows up, it's like, no, I want Gary the Lion Killer Tonin versus Eddie Cummings or Gio Martin. I want just this past weekend, Jeff Glover got power bombed from a triangle by Gio Martinez. You're telling me that nobody wants to see that rematch now at the next EBI or the next Metamoris? That now we have a story. You know what I mean?
They're slam now, aren't they?
Yeah, as far as I know, I have to ask my coach. He's an aficionado when it comes to the rules and stuff. But he would probably say, I think it's yes that they are allow slamming at those. It's like one of those things you don't do, but it's like it's a valid response to the triangle. If you don't hook the leg, why not let go? You know what I mean? If someone's lifting you off the ground and this is going to end badly, you should let go. Yeah, open up, move on. You know what I mean? It's like holding onto a shitty guillotine and then getting Von Flue choked. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, well, that was stupid. Why did you hold onto a guillotine that was never going to work?
Hang on 1 second. I'm losing power. No, we're good.
Perfect. So, Colin, you're an interesting guy. You're not just MMA. You're not just jiu-jitsu. If I remember correctly, you were telling me that you were pretty high up in cycling. Is that am I correct?
Yeah, I used to race. Bicycles, or Jesus, when was it? I raced for a team in Guadeloupe. What happened was when I was 15, I kind of left school, and then I got into bike riding because the kid next door or the guy next door was into it, and I used to see him stripping bikes every night. So I used to go into him, John Sheen, got me into riding bikes, and I came across a guy called Julian Dalby, who was at the time was the best cyclist in Ireland, and he's now the ring doc for a lot of the MMA fights. He was at the UFC in Dublin.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, so now he's a doctor, and he goes to all the fights. In Ireland, the people will know who he is, Dr. Jules. He patches up people at the end of the fights. But
Yeah.
he got a ride for a team in Guadeloupe, which is a French island in the Caribbean, and I raced full time there, and I raced full time in Africa. So like 20, 21, 22, used to go to Senegal, ride there, then we come back to Ireland, then go to Guadeloupe, and that was the end of that. And then when I stopped doing that, I didn't know what to do with myself, because I wanted to ride the Tour de France, but I tried and I realized it just wasn't good enough. And that's a kind of like, when you're 23, that's a hard kind of look in the mirror to
Now,
realize that, look, it's
do
never
you
going to
have
happen.
to win? Do you have to qualify for the Tour de France? Like, how do you qualify for something like that?
You'd have to kind of like, at the time, you'd have to go to France, ride as an amateur. And the amateur scene in France at the time, well, it still is full of ex-pros, and it's organized. So the amateur scene is ex-pros, and there's a mafia, right? So say, for instance, I showed up and I start doing really, really well. Well, there's a bunch of guys that are around for a long time, and they say, listen, kid, you need to fucking slow down there a little bit, and you do what you're told. So there's a very higher echelon of the way things are done, and you got to earn your time. And eventually you get your time if you put the work in. And I just wasn't good enough to do that. Just whatever I did, it wasn't good enough. So I packed it in. I started getting into, I always wanted to do martial arts. And I started doing Tai Chi for about a year, right? And we're doing this push hand stuff. And I went to see this guy called Master Ding in a dojo. It was like a seminar. And the dojo was a ninjutsu dojo. And they had weapons, and I was always into weapons. This is before MMA started.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, this is fucking cool. This is better than push hands and pushing people over in the park. So I want to learn how to use a katana and, a sword and all that shit. So got into that heavily. Was going for my black belt, would have been around 2001, I'd say.
And how many years did it take? How many sort of cut you off? But how many years?
That was
so
5 years.
Okay.
But I didn't miss a fucking week. You know what I mean? That was me on the mat every night. I was obsessed with it. So, but the thing was, the dudes who were there were all tough dudes. I mean, it was a hiding every night. Like, they made men out of boys. Like, I used to getting beat up. And it was really, at the time, it was really, really good for me, because it was very Japanese. It was very disciplined. You were 30 seconds late, you were doing press-ups. You couldn't talk, you couldn't drink. It was all that kind of bows, formality. And at the time, 23, 24, 25, well, no, I was older than that, 26. I needed that in my life. And it was perfect for me. And I got a year's notice that I'd do my black belt. And for the black belt, we had 30 fights. So 10 of those were like Kukenshindaru karate, like full contact, no gloves, no shin pads. Could punch to the body and kick to the head. And then we had 10 judo fights and 10 ground fights. All were fresh guys, And I heard about this guy that was good on the ground, because I thought it was good on the ground, but we used to basically just roll around a little bit. It wasn't very technical. But, you're just with other people. So I thought, yeah, I'm good on the ground. I'm pretty handy on the ground. And then I heard about this guy that was training jiu-jitsu, didn't know what it was, and that was John Kavanagh. And I went up, it was in a shed up a laneway in a garage, and there was like 12 people there. And I went in and everybody just destroyed me. And guys that were training 6 months a year just ran through me. I couldn't do anything. Everything I tried didn't work, And then I realized the method I was learning wasn't as efficient as what they were learning. And plus the skill level was different. And I used to dip in and out of that. And that's when I started kind of getting more into jiu-jitsu and MMA. And with the ninjutsu, the ninjutsu was very tight. I mean, it was a very close-knit group. We used to do security together. We used to go out together. And it was hard leaving that, because it wasn't just leaving ninjutsu, it was leaving the kind of the tribe that you were in. Yeah, and I realized that in order for me to progress, that I wanted to do this, and I went to Thailand then to do Thai boxing, and then I came back, and in Thailand I met a guy called Pedro Lot from Brazil top team, and he was teaching jiu-jitsu, but nobody wanted to do jiu-jitsu, just me. So it was me and a gi and him, and because he was Brazilian, I showed up with a gi. We became friends, and then after that I started kind of going, okay, well, I'm going to learn a little bit more about this. And so I concentrated then on mainly training with John and all the guys. And that would have been about 2007, I'd say, when I was going constant, if you know what I mean. Before that, I would be maybe once a week, twice a week. Then after that, that was the main thing, you know. And that would have been my kind of introduction to MMA and jiu-jitsu. And I think, how long was I training? I think I was doing jiu-jitsu maybe 5 years before I got a blue belt.
Yeah, I see that. And that's the thing, is that when I talk to other people, the rare cases are people getting their black belts under 10 years. And those are like the very rare cases, like Amanda from Portland, who
Right.
actually just won her, I believe it was gold in her weight, and then silver in the absolutes at the IBJJF Pro in Santa Cruz.
Right.
See, she's a rare exception, and a lot of the people I've talked to that are from who started jiu-jitsu early 2000s even said that a lot of them didn't get their blue belts unless they were going literally every single day, 2-3 times a day, because they were still living at home or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's a good gauge, and I mean, for me, it's like I was lucky enough to have a bunch of guys here that I train all the time. I was lucky enough to be able to give them a blue belt, you know, because you know, they were getting to a stage where, you know, for me, they should be starting to get. If I'm not getting tapped out by my guys, I'm not teaching correctly. If you know what I mean, they should end up better.
100%. And my coach has the same philosophy. He says that his goal is always to be to have his students be better than him, and I think that is the goal of every coach, is to have their students become better than them. I mean, you know, because they're learning all the same. They're learning the mistakes of the coach, of themselves.
Yeah,
they're correcting those mistakes. They're learning from a diverse pool of people who can help them with their mistakes and everything. And you like I said, you kind of, I mean, as a coach and as anybody, you want the person that you're helping to become better than you, because it's only going to push you to be better.
But some people don't. That's the difference, you know. And I think the other thing as well is the methods that I've seen. Like, I've seen a lot of people coaching. That's the other aspect of being here. Generally, what I do is you know, if somebody comes that's pretty good, I'll always get them to show something or coach, or, you know. And also I have a lot of camps here, so I have different people. Say like a team comes with different, so I see the different methods of teaching, and I learn a lot from a lot of people as such. So I think now at the moment, since I've been here, I've taught like, it must be 1,200 classes at this stage. Which
so you have quite a bit underneath your belt.
Yeah, I've started to realize that I'm kind of getting the hang of it, if you know what I mean. Like I see, and another aspect of things is, like, I do some privates with some guys that I've never trained before. So like 50-year-old men that, you know, want to lose a little bit of weight, and you're doing pads with them, and you're realizing you have to go way back to how he's actually walking, more so than just hitting pads, how he's moving, how he's turning his feet out, how he's not kind of, you know, being loose. And I'm learning a lot from those basic beginners, you know, and I'm starting to kind of accept the fact that I'm coaching more so. At the start, anyone that came that was a coach, I'd always feel a little bit below them, whereas now I feel like my coaching game has got a lot better as such, and that's just down to time on the mat coaching, you know.
And we're in such a different time. Like I've talked to a lot of people who are older who learned off of VHSs, and I mean, there's the rare cases like Evan Tanner, who basically says he was taught a lot of what he knew from videotapes, from the videotape training. Now you have stuff like YouTube, and you have the UFC where you can watch. And if you're a good enough visual learner, I mean, yeah, you're not going to know the details and the routes, but you're going to kind of have an idea. Like if someone says go to closed guard, you're going to know what closed guard is in many ways. And it's a whole different way of teaching when you have all these other influences on your students rather than just your own knowledge being passed on to them.
Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking about the other day was when I started here first, I used to do that a lot. I used to watch a lot of instructionals. I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I found that I don't really do that too much. And I've gone back to really just basic positional stuff. I used to always do like, you know, a position to a finish, if you know what I mean. Whereas now I just, you know, like this week I'm just working on bottom half guard. I'm not doing any submissions from it, and I kind of run through all the positions. Like last week I did top half guard, but I didn't do any submissions. I'm just working on the small detail of, let's start off with, you know, clamping down the leg, and let's start off there instead of working to missing all that in order to get a Kimura or whatever you're trying to get, or a Peruvian necktie or a Japanese necktie. So a lot of the stuff I'm not even working submissions, because a lot of people, like I'm sure, watch all those things anyway. So everyone knows how to do a rear naked choke. It's kind of get in a position to do a rear naked choke. So I've been really concentrated on getting to a position and holding that position, if you know what I mean. So like, so if I can get to mount, can I stay in mount for 5 minutes? You know, it takes a long time to get good at that. And smaller guys will know, you know, you don't get to mount very often when you're a smaller guy because you're being smashed all the time. And then when you do get there, it doesn't last for very long. So that's what John Kavanagh says it takes 5 years to get a good mount, which probably true, right? Only now I'm starting to get good top position because it was never there in order to hang on to it long enough. Like, so I really am working on the more basic stuff, you know, but I find there's so much detail in that it's enough at the moment, you know. And I haven't been trying to, for instance, if I look back in the classes I used to teach, I would see something on YouTube, teach it, and then I do something different the next week, and I'd never go back to that again. So I wouldn't know it. I'd know how to do it, but I wouldn't know how to catch it, if you know what I mean. So if I can get you to, you know, if I can get side mount or mount, hold the position, try you out, eventually you'll give me something instead of looking for something, you know. And same with the takedowns. You know, if I don't look for the takedown anymore, I look for the position. If I can get to a front rack squat position, I can take you down. If I'm reaching for it, I can't. If I can lift good weight in the front, you know, front rack squat position, I can take you down. If I'm reaching like a mummy, I can't take you down. So I just look for the position rather than looking for the takedown, and I found things have improved a lot more since then. Before I could never get anyone down.
Well, that's interesting. When you were saying about the takedowns, you're more worried about the position, and that's the reason why I've kind of really gravitated my attention towards takedowns, because I find that. And Chuck Liddell said it best. There's kind of an oh fuck moment when you get taken down, and that exact second is where you can,
when you get up,
take down, pass that guard.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Right there and then you're taking him down just to make. I struggled for easily 2 years at guard passing. I just wasn't getting it. I really studied Kane Prevost, one of Matt Thornton's black belts over there, black belts. I read a lot in his on his guard passing techniques, and it helped me tremendously. But that's exactly it. When I do a takedown now, I'm no longer looking just to be satisfied with the takedown. It's get those legs out of the way right after, and then that's an interesting point, you know, because it's a beautiful way of getting you that second to not have to fight feet and fight the legs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty much been doing. Like when I go back to Dublin, I do some stuff, and that's all I'm doing for the next 6 months or a year, like over and over and over again. We just drill it. So like the takedown I do now is the same takedown I've done for the last 6 months, and we just drill it, and it also offers for. I mean, like I used to do Muay Thai class. I used to do, you know, specific classes. Now I don't do. I just do striking. I don't, because it's all based on MMA. I mean, if I do Muay Thai, yeah, Muay Thai is good for learning how to kick somebody and stuff like that. But the position that I'm gonna be in is not great for MMA. I mean, the stance is all wrong. I'm gonna get taken down all day. Yeah, you might get a good kick, but it doesn't suit. It's good to learn the dynamics of how to turn your hip and how to get the most powerful kick, but you gotta sacrifice some of that in order for the position to be longer and to be moving differently and not follow through and so on and so forth. So I find a lot of the stuff now I do is I just move. I don't even have, like, when people ask me what we're doing, I say, well, same shit we do every other day. We just move around. We're either stand up moving around or we're on the ground moving around. And I don't get lost too much in the detail anymore, you know?
Well, no, I mean, because it's funny, after you've done jujitsu for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you'll start seeing the exact same patterns of what it takes to do, and it's of what it takes to do a sweep or a guard pass. The same fundamentals. It doesn't matter how you do it, but you have to respect the principles and the fundamentals. You as soon as you start going against those, you're usually either really good and you know how to break the rules, or you broke the rules and you're gonna be screwed in a moment.
Yeah. It's not like, you know, what do I do when someone has me in a rear naked choke? It's like, well, you fucked up a long time ago.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So you got to stop the guy getting your back, you know, instead of, what do you do? Fight the hands. You know, I don't spend any time with that. How do I get out of an arm bar if my arms are like this? Well, you fucked up. You may as well go back to, you know.
At that point,
what's the guy's name that fought Laborio the weekend?
You mean the flying armbar guy?
No, the old guy. You remember Ricardo Laborio fought?
So Speary.
Speary, yeah. You know, he never lost 1 point in 10 years of jiu-jitsu matches.
It wouldn't surprise me. Mario Speary's a bad man.
No one ever passed his guard. No one ever got side mount. No one got nothing. Not 1 point in 10 years. So, like, no one ever armbarred him because they didn't even get past. They didn't get to that stage, you know. It's like when you get with a good black belt or a good level guy, you never get to cross face the guy because he doesn't let you. You know, so like he's not figuring out how do I get out of a north-south choke. Well, you ain't gonna get there. You ain't gonna get your hand around his head because he's controlling the distance. He's making frames and moving his hips. You know, and he's good at those solid basics, and then he gets to sweep and you're done. You know, so yeah. But I found for me it's been a good journey coming here. I've been documenting it with my video blog.
No, that's where we're gonna go to next. That's something I wanted to segue to. Was you make these awesome films, and if what do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, Shinobi Vlog show, VLOG. Shinobi is the.
You have to check if you're watching this, you have to check out these things. It's amazing now what if you're passionate. The software and all that is there. If you're passionate and you love what you're shooting, it's amazing now. Like the one you did for John's gym for SPG Ireland, I think you've done 2, but the last one you did that got a lot of sharing on my Facebook. It was beautiful. Like, I mean, that
Alan Watts one, was it?
Yeah, you had a really cool technical, like you had like a remix of a song on it. I can't remember it. But
that was for the World MMA Awards.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. That was shown in Vegas on the big screen at that kind of black tie event. And what it was John had got onto me. He said, he sent me an email. Said, look, can you do this? And it was an email from the World MMA Awards. They've been nominated for the best gym, them and Alpha Male and, you know, whoever. And I was in Portugal. So they wanted it done in like 2 days or 3 days, whatever it was. So I got on to the girl. They had a list of what they wanted. And basically what it was a tour of the gym.
Yeah.
So I said, well, fuck it. That is a tour of the gym because that's the heart and soul of the gym. So I had some footage, tons of footage from doing other stuff. And I just put that together from footage I just sitting there. So instead of just doing your normal, this is the background and this is the cage. And so fucking this is the place alive, you know. This is what it looks like. These are the characters, and that's it. But I think what the videos for me is like twofold. One is, we were talking about the cycling earlier, is I kind of remember most of that shit, but a lot of it's vague. And the guy I was with has different stories to me. And I kind of remember stuff,
Yeah.
but I'm not too sure whether that happened or not happened or whatever. And I fuck all the show for it. I have a few photographs. I mean, in Africa, we were on TV. In Guadeloupe, there was 2 live radio show stations following the race. It was on TV that night, and it was headline photograph of the front page of the newspaper. You were gods. I mean, when we went to Guadeloupe, I never even heard of the place, but cycling was the biggest thing in the island, and we were these 2 white guys riding for this local, town, and we were superstars. Whereas I thought that would last forever. You're 22, it thinks like this is great, But I've a sketchy memory of it. Whereas I thought, well, this aspect of my life won't last forever. Me having a gym in the Algarve won't last forever. Shit changes in life and things move on or whatever. So I decided to document it. And I've always had a passion for filmmaking, and doing the vlog has made me practice editing. So like now I've got, 300 and something 50 videos or some shit like that in the last 2 years.
Wow.
So if, say for instance, I shot a film once every year, documentary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Takes me 6 weeks. Oh, what am I doing the rest of the fucking time? And then I got to relearn it. So like every week on average, I've shoot 2 shots a week. I'm shooting every day. I'm editing every day. And like this weekend, I go to Liverpool. There's a fight thing called the Shinobi MMA Championships on, and they're bringing me over to shoot a documentary on a guy. So you're gonna ask me what that is about, right?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you because I know you the gym Shinobi. Now, is that affiliated with you in any way?
Shinobi is an old Japanese name for ninja.
Yeah.
Right, and the logo is the face of a crazed woman with jealousy. It's a Hanya mask. I own that image. It's from a museum in Japan. There was a guy called Paul Reed who came to one of my camps one time to train, and we got on great. We became friends. He was into MMA, but he was getting he started kind of a little bit late, and he was a bit broken up from doing football, but he wanted to have an input into it. And he'd been to a lot of shows in England, and he found that a lot of the shows were not about the fighter. They were about the show and about making money. And there was very little done for the guy who was putting himself on the line. And he found a lot of bad matches, and just everything bad. If you've been to MMA shows, people will tell you the same, or any type of fight night.
Well,
and so so he decided to, go on.
I was going to say, I didn't mean to interject there, but what I always found so fucked up if you're going to call yourself a promoter, and then you're going to make it on the responsibility of the athletes participating to sell tickets as the means of how you're selling tickets to that event, and then calling it an amateur event so you don't pay the athletes. That is something that was always so fucked up. And I mean, you're basically saying that these people aren't employees, they're subcontractors too. And all that bullshit. I mean, it's always nice to hear when people are putting the emphasis back on the fighter. And I know John had did a couple, Kavanaugh did a couple of shows where he spoiled a lot of the fighters, and I'm sure didn't make a whole ton on those, if anything.
I don't think anyone makes any money on them, really. People think, oh, it's 30 quid a ticket, but they don't see how much effort and goes into it. It's quite a lot of effort. But Paul, anyway, decided to put on the show. It's an amateur show, but he gives the guys bonuses. He had all the Icelandic guys over there at the last one I was at. I made a short film with that. But, you get there, there's, backstage TV where you can see the fights. There's a guy with telling you what way the schedule is going, who's coming on next. They'd masseuses, they'd food, they'd drink. They looked after everyone to a T. I mean, and John and Gunny were there, and they'll say, look, it's as good as any pro event, like top end pro, like UFC. And so he not that he borrowed the name of me, because I don't own the name as such, because Shinobi is just a name. But he asked me could he use the name, and he did a version of the logo as well, which I was delighted that he would do. But they're bringing me over now to follow a guy called Bobby Pallett who's fighting. So we're gonna do a fly on the wall of his experience of, before the fight, and the aftermath of that, whatever that may come. What I find difficult is, especially for filmmaking, and I've done it where it's hard to talk to somebody after they've lost. it's hard to shove a camera in someone's face after the
Yeah.
loss. And what I do is I tell them, look, you mightn't like it at the time, but you'll appreciate it later. And the other thing about, I think the difference between me and someone who's a really good filmmaker, because I don't see myself as a great filmmaker by any means, but I'm learning. But what I do understand is I understand martial arts, and I understand what it's like to lose and what it's like to win. And I'm not intimidated by that atmosphere. I love that atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
But so I'll say to him beforehand, look, I'm gonna talk to you straight after, because the opinion you give me straight after is going to be different to what you give me in an hour, in a day, in a week, in a year. But I want to capture that straight off the bat, you know. And
that's something that I thought was really special, is that every time I'm watching it, you have the artistic portion down beautifully. I mean, visually, you get insanely nice shots, and every time I'm watching it, your storytelling, your ability to tell a story without having to narrate the story is just getting that much better. And that's something that I can see where the passion and the ever improvement on editing it is coming to. I'm not sure if you released it openly, but I remember you did the one for Malpeter for the fight. I think he had it over close to, he fought over there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I that was a funny one, because I cornered and warmed him up and shot that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that one. You know, that one was one of my favorites, because you didn't do any bias shooting of the fight, and how that other guy got the decision is I mean, with all due respect, I mean, he's not like the guy, you know, shot the bed and stole a decision, but that, you know, there wasn't any fancy camera tricks you were using. Malpeter went in there. He did more than enough to justify a win. You know.
That was an interesting night. I mean, for me, it was, I knew going up, first of all, what the story was. With the guy he was fighting, it's his organization. He'd have to knock him out to get a draw. I told them beforehand. And what was interesting for me was, every now and then I forget why I do this. But that night with Chris Fields, him backstage, was one of those days that I always remember, because just Chris Fields being such a good motivator of people, such a good coach, Phil being such a cool cat, doesn't give a shit, and everyone says that, but he doesn't. You know the way, like, I mean, you're gonna get nervous before a fight, you're gonna be running backwards to the bathroom. He just doesn't give a shit. But when he goes in there, he goes in and he fights a great fight. And like, for instance, like, I shot two versions. I shot the whole fight and put that out, and then I shot it like a fuck you kind of video, which was like, I felt he was robbed at the time. I was emotionally attached to the fight because I was in there. Like, I warmed them up because Chris was sick, and I did a corner and I shot the thing. That was just it turned out a lot better than I thought it would, because it was the third thing on the list. I just thought I'll shoot a little bit of footage, maybe take some photographs. But it was just a case of, I really believed that, you know, he won the fight, and, you know, he was pissed off afterwards, but it doesn't really matter. It's the process. I mean, for me, it's the winning and losing. It's not the most important thing. It's how you come out the other end of it. That's Louis, my cat.
I'm a cat fan, so don't worry. It won't affect this at all. If he or she can chill. But but that's the thing about Chris. Speaking of Chris, and I when I get a chance to mention him, Chris was the first guy when I went over to SPG Ireland the first time. He was the first guy to reach out, and I'm sure he's like this with most people. He was the first guy to kind of, you know, put an arm around me and say, "Hey, come chill with us." He got me in to go roll with Tom, and he is a huge. I mean, I think one of the huge influences Chris will have is the fact that he is going to be a huge. He's a fan of everybody he corners. I don't think he corners people for if he doesn't respect them. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to bullshit you with his time. If he thinks you're putting in 100%. He wants to be there, and I think with him being in Phil's corner, I mean, I'm sure you could see this. He wants to be there every time for his buddies, him, Pendred, and even the amateur guys that are coming up. He's like the first guy that I always see that's in the corner.
He's brilliant. I mean, you show up for his class on Friday, and you know, if you just want to start MMA, I think it's the only MMA class, and you get that's the guy you get to coach your first. Well, Paddy, no, second MMA class. So you get him or Paddy. It's like Jesus Christ, like the level of enthusiasm, the level of involvement, the level of not painted by numbers, completely involved in the process. And I mean, he's a brilliant coach, great fighter, but a brilliant coach. And just being, it brings the best out of people, you know. And it's that little guy that pushes you on that you didn't know you had in you, and you hear his voice because he's got a loud ass voice, right? And he's just that type of guy that'll get the best out of people. And just getting to train with him, or getting if you're lucky enough to get him to corner you, fucking brilliant, you know. And the music he plays, the soundtrack, it's great.
Yeah. You know? Yeah, no, I've done Chris's classes a couple times. I've actually had a chance to do some boxing with him, and it was just one of the cooler experiences when I was training over there. If anybody watching this, if you're ever in Dublin, you have to hit up the SBG Ireland gym, and you have to hit up a Chris's class for MMA. It's one of the most fun times because he doesn't accept bullshit. He doesn't accept you not trying. He doesn't care if you're never going to be a world-class athlete. He doesn't care. He just wants you to put your best effort because it's the best thing for you. You'll gain so much from that.
Well, that's it, because most of the guys in the class are never going to fight, right? They just want to train to get better or whatever. And most guys in any place are there's only a very few people that will fight, and that of those will ever do well. You know, most people are going to have like a 50-50 record, or, you know, win some, lose some, because, you know, most people are emotional about stuff, and you're either on or you're not on. And then you get the odd guy that's on when you need to be on, and they're a rare kind of commodity, right? So, but most people, like even for me, for competing, if I'm not in the humor, I'm fucking not in the humor, you know. It doesn't matter what you say to me. And I think with a lot of people are like that, whereas you get these people that doesn't matter what it is, what day it is, how they feel, they're ill, whatever, they get up and they perform on the fucking button, and it's a rare thing, you know. So most guys in the gym are just there to be the best they can be on a Thursday or a Friday and go home and get on with their life, and it makes them a better person. So, yeah, and he's there for all those guys, you know. That's the thing. He doesn't look at them any different, you know.
So you're born in Ireland, correct? Or where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Ireland, and now I'm living in Portugal.
How Portugal? I mean, it's such I mean, it's a beautiful place. I mean, scenically, obviously, it makes sense. But like, what made you move from Ireland over to Portugal? Like, what was? It's such a different kind of. I mean, yeah, sun, obviously, but like I said, scenic side aside, like, why was it an opportunity you had over there, or just you?
The short version or the long version? I'll give you the short version.
Yeah, let's go with the short version.
I like to have these how the fuck did I get here moments, and I tend to have a lot of them. A friend of mine, Carl McCormick, will understand what that means. If anyone's ever traveled anywhere with me, you'll notice I get into kind of like weird situations. What happened was, the short version is I won a TV show in Ireland, and the prize was an apartment in Portugal, and yeah, so I was on a TV show. Prize was this gaff over here, so what? I won it. Yeah.
What show was it?
It was a show called The Holiday Homes Detective. And,
okay, that is one way to do a movie, is that you win in an apartment.
Well, fuck it, I was never going to come here. It was never on my list of places to go ever, because I like to go places, and Portugal was like, why the fuck would I ever go to Portugal? I don't play golf. That's it. And it's kind of marketed as, like, if you ever get on a plane to Portugal, it's not like any other plane. It's full of people, you know, with money playing golf. And I'm not one of those people. So it's not like going to Spain where you just get everybody. And so it was a case of, when I got here, I kind of liked the landing. It was a soft landing. It was kind of, I've been to places where you go, wow. And after a week or two, it wears off. Whereas when I got here, it was a comfortable, soft, easy land, and I felt comfortable here. I felt, you know, relaxing at home. And then I figured, what can I do to stay? And I've done a bunch of things in my life and done different things. And at the time I'd studied Chinese medicine, and I was doing acupuncture. I thought, let me do some acupuncture over here. And then I thought, there's no one doing MMA. Nobody. There was still 1970 karate and Krav Maga and kickboxing, but no one was doing MMA. And I just thought, you know, it's better to be the first guy than the best guy. You can never beat the first guy. And
Yeah, no, for
so
sure.
I went around snooping around looking for some places, thinking of you know, like everybody else was, going to warehouses and shit like that. And then someone said, "Hey, there's a gym and at this place here, blah blah blah." And been vacant for like 8 years, and so I just came, knocked on the door, found the guy, said, "Look, can I have a look at this place?" And said, "Yeah, I got the key." Came down, opened up, and said, "Right, I want it." And it took like 2 years to kind of get it. And
Because
I
it looks
think
like
it
a
has the best
beautiful
view.
gym. Yeah, I mean, I've seen shots of the gym, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's a very
Yeah.
very cool place. I mean, I'm guessing a lot of stuff in Portugal is just beautiful. So I mean, like
It is, but it's got the best view of any gym in the world. I guarantee you that. I mean, I haven't seen anywhere else that when you walk out, you're overlooking a 50-meter pool and a beach, you know, and you know, you might get a cooler gym inside, but you won't get the whole package. And for me, what it was then the initial thing was it's in an apartment complex, and I liked. I tell you what got me going was when I missed training full time. When I was on the bike, I was full time. I was like you know, just all I did was ride a bike. So I sponsored. That was my job, riding the bike, and I missed just being an athlete. And when I started doing martial arts, I missed being an athlete. And the only place I could do it was go to Thailand. And not many people can say to their wife or girlfriend or partner, "Look, I'm going to Thailand for a month to train." You're going to say, "No, you're not." And I figured, well, how about I bring Thailand to here? So you could just get on a plane. She can go to the pool or lie on the beach, and you can train, and you can stay in the apartment next to the gym, and everyone's kosher. And that was the initial idea. So
so is this the place? Is the place you're at right now? Is this the place you want, or have you upgraded from there?
No, I'm in the gym still, right? So I haven't got home yet. So, but the place I won is like a super posh place. It's all the, you know, it's 5-star resort kind of thing, you know, and it's.
So you're still there. So you're still at the place you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah. So it's kind of like it was just,
That's crazy.
you know, yeah, it was just one of those things that happened, you know. It was like the way it came around was a bunch of things that, like, for instance, like the guy I used to race bikes with, we stopped hanging out, and he wouldn't have the same kind of personality as me. He's a different personality to me. I'd be a little bit more social. He'd be a little bit smarter in certain ways. So in order, we kind of stopped hanging out, such because like we stopped riding a bike. We see each other every now and then. We weren't really hanging out. And I think a lot of times you do things with people that you used to hang out with just to hang out. If you know what I mean. You say, "Hey, listen, this, you know," so you find something to hang out with, something differently and something common. So he said to me, "Look, we'll do this TV show together." I was like, "Oh, fuck, I don't want to be on TV, man. I'm not as vain as I used to be when I was 20, you know. I'm over that shit. You know? I'm over someone making me famous, right?" So he just, you know, said, "Look, we'll go for it." And he put this thing in. I wasn't into it, and we went for the interview and we got it. So it was a kind of case of we did something to hang out again with, and in the meantime we won the thing because we're competitive people, and the rest of the people weren't competitive. I suppose that's how we won it. It wasn't that we were super smart or knew about property or anything. It was just we were competitive. We're paying attention, you know. We're strategizing on how to win this thing. So what it was you had a team of 2 people, and you'd have another team of 2 people, and they'd say, "Look, go to the airport." You go to the airport, and then they'd say, "Well, okay, you're going to Spain or you're going to Cyprus or whatever." You get on a plane, and then you look at 3 properties, and then you have to guess how much they're worth, and the closest to it will get a point. You know, so best out of 3, go into the next round, so on and so forth. So, look, I don't know shit about property, but I know how to strategize.
Yeah.
So we use the sniper technique. You know what the sniper technique is?
No,
a long range sniper doesn't really know how far the object is. So what he does is he guesses the maximum and the minimum, and he goes in the middle because there's a curvature of the earth, right? So if something's at 800 meters or 900 meters, he's not too sure. It could be 850, not too sure. So what's the max it could be? 900. What's the minimum? 800. Okay, let's go 850, and we'll go with that. So that's what we did. We did a max and a low. So we would not talk to each other. So we did not influence each other when we were walking around. And then at the end, he'd write down his max and his minimum. I'd do the same, and we go in the middle, and that's how we did it. So it was.
So you won the place. What did he win?
We won it each. That was the thing. So we won it between us, and then they kind of gave us the option of buying each other out. So we did that, you know. So we got one for like half the price, kind of thing each, you know. So it was
Ah,
kind of
cool,
cool, you know.
cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was kind of cool, you know. So it was one of those things that set me off to come in here. Like if I hadn't done that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting talking to you now, right? I wouldn't have met you in Dublin or whatever, you know. So, and it's kind of set me off on a path I was already on, but just kind of varied it a little bit into just being the guy that just showed up 3 times a week to the guy that now has his own place, if you know what I
That's
mean.
badass, man. That's badass.
Yeah.
So, what's the jiu-jitsu and MMA scene like there now around you? Is there anything, or is it just you?
There's a Hoist Gracie in Lagoa, which is further down. They're kind
Yeah.
of like they're big into doing the only competitions are in Lisbon, you know. A lot of people here, like I tried at the start to kind of get guys to kind of train together and let's show up and once every month come up and we'll just pick someone you want to roll with and compete with them and get some
Hmm.
practice in. But I think a lot of people have a problem with losing. Even to do like I had a couple of super fights here, jiu-jitsu super fights, boxing matches, kickboxing matches, where the kickboxing's pretty big here and you've got like 1,000 people go to an event, whereas they won't have an MMA event here,
Hmm.
um, because they still kind of don't know what it is. I'm starting to see like a lot of people are starting to learn what the UFC is now, so it's only now that it's kind of getting through to hear what it actually is, and now you're
Is
starting
it
to see people.
is it regulated there? Like, can you host an MMA? You can host an MMA event, right?
A lot of red tape here. I mean, like for instance, like I wouldn't have been able to open the gym if I wasn't a black belt. I could be like a UFC fighter and a blue belt and fuck to be able to open a gym here. But you'd
Yeah.
have to be an instructor as such. So if I didn't have a black belt in something else, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Oh
Um,
wow.
I one of my guys had his first ever pro fight there a few weeks
Hmm.
ago. So up in Porto.
Yeah, yeah.
Porto was like
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, so that was kind of cool for me. It was a big thing, and the pro scene here is probably like it's like 10 years ago in Ireland. You know, it's there's no point in doing an amateur fight here, because it's so basic. And I think in order, you might as well get paid to like. I think the level of amateur fights in Ireland is better than the level of pro fights here.
Hmm.
Um, so they have a few events. The IPC do one. That's the one that Philip was in. I mean, that guy
Yep.
fought is good, strong, good guy. Has fought all over the place, but a lot of the other fights were guys that were just local fights, fighting at a pro level. But
Hmm.
Chris Fields will tell you, like we were backstage with these Spanish guys, and like the coach had like a big fat belly with a mustache with Vale Tudo tattooed around the belly. The guy was holding pads. He was probably hitting 1 out of 6 pads. It was looked like his
Oh
first lesson, and he
wow.
was going to fight a pro MMA fight. Because I was saying to Chris, you're not going to believe how basic this shit is. This is like when Andy Ryan and John Kavanagh did rings in the stadium. It was like, yeah, I'll fight him. It's kind of a little bit like that. So I'm kind of getting in at the start. The only problem I have is I have 3 or 4 guys that are ready to fight, but it's anytime you get them a fight, either someone pulls out or
Yeah.
something doesn't go through. I had a guy that wanted to put on a show here, and I had 3 guys getting ready for it. And then he decided to change the rules of the fights, which were, first of all, it was in a ring, right? So for me, if it's not in a cage, it's not MMA because there's so
Mhm.
much involved in the wall stuff. And the other thing was he wanted the first round punches only, second round punches and kicks, third round grappling against, someone that's had, 8 or 9 pro K1 fights. So by the time you get to the third round with your 4 ounce gloves, and if you can take down the slippy guy in the ring, good luck, So there's been a lot of that.
I mean, it's just stupid. I mean, are you going to have a standing 8 count in the first round if someone gets
Yeah,
knocked down? You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's when you
yeah,
start doing the standing 8 count, I don't care what gloves you're wearing. It's dangerous as shit.
yeah, yeah.
You
Like
know it.
I had a grappling match here like that I got ready for, and the guy didn't show up. So I was backstage with 1,000 people warming up, and I get the call to go out, and the guy hasn't even left his house yet. So it's
How do
kind of
you know what I mean? Like
when you
it's
put 6 weeks of
grappling.
work in, yeah. When you put six weeks of work in, and then you're dealing with that kind of shit, it's hard then.
It's
Um,
disheartening for sure.
yeah, especially when like okay, I could deal with it, but like if I get my guys and they've done like 3 or 4 sessions of getting ready for a fight that never happened, it's tricky. So I'm glad I got the first one in there recently, and it looks like we're getting to a stage now where it's starting to kind of get a bit more serious, especially in Lisbon and Porto. So hopefully in October I'll have a couple of guys in Lisbon fighting up there. So that's what I'm aiming for now. So
I can't wait to see that. I'm very excited. You know, I love seeing people that are passionate and people who are attempting to do something. I don't care if they succeed or fail. Whatever. I don't give a shit about that. As long as the attempt and the passion is shown, that's something that I love to see. And I mean, obviously, I wish all your guys the best of skill when they finally get their opportunity. And I'm sure they're gonna be more than prepared, knowing that what can and cannot happen. We're going to start wrapping this up. Is there any sponsors, or is there any websites you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to Paul Reed, because they've got that Shinobi fighting championships on the weekend in Liverpool. I'm going over for that, so I'm going to have that film out probably the week. I kind of like to get stuff done fast. Like when I shoot stuff, I get a little bit obsessed with the edit. So I'm hoping to get that out super fast, and that's going to be my films. I think have progressively got better each time, because I look at them and I look at where I'm going wrong as such, and a lot of them you have to have a start, middle, and end in a story, and also a lot of them are like songs. In a song, you've got a chorus and you've got a verse, but you've also got a bridge. You need to be able to get from the middle bit to the end. Otherwise, it looks clunky, or you got to do a voiceover, or you got to do some graphics or writing to say, whatever. So I like to be able to tell the story with the images instead of having to go and in the end, whatever happened. So every time I do a film, I find what I missed out, and I make note of that, and I don't let that happen again. So every time I've done them, they've got better. So this one I think will be my best one. I'm looking forward to it. So that's probably a new thing. And we just set up a company called Square V Media, and it's kind of like storytelling through film, through social media, through photography, and it's like 4 of us working on that. It's with an old buddy of mine from Ireland that same thing, we made the excuse to hang out again. We don't hang out anymore, so we set up a company together in order to hang out, if you know what I mean. So I know the guy like 20 years. I was best man on his wedding. And
is there a website for that?
Anymore, but now we do, because we're in contact every day. So, and my Mrs. Candy's doing the social media. So that's sweet. A new project. Yeah. So she's brilliant at that. I mean, she knows all about how to kind of get your company up and running with social media. And then we just tell the stories with the video. So like I say, doing the vlog, doing the films, then all of a sudden I'm able to tell a story, whatever. It doesn't matter what the subject is. For instance, like, just so I don't waffle, is we did a conference, and I don't see the conference any different. It was a tech conference, like computer guys. I don't know what the fuck they were talking about, because it's beyond I mean, coding and, coding jokes and shit like that. But it's exactly the same as a guy who's competing in an event for me, in an MMA event, because here's a guy who's going to stand in front of his peers naked and say what he feels, like a guy who stands in front of his peers naked and puts it all on the line. And once you get into a ring or into a cage, you're showing yourself, you're exposing yourself, you're being that honest self, and that takes a lot of balls. So I try and capture the emotion of that, whatever that might be. So whether it's a tech conference or an MMA event or whatever that is, it's the kind of human side of the story, more so than the actual thing that they're doing. It's just the method they use. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Awesome. I would just like to say thank you. I find you to be one of the most interesting people I've met in this journey, and I mean that. I really do. Everybody, this is Colin. He's a storyteller. He's a martial artist. He's an entrepreneur. He is basically everything that he can do to make money to supply his MMA career and training and stuff like that, and coaching. So Colin, thank you so much from the Hail Mary podcast.
Well, I appreciate being on. It's good to be part of your little podcasting. It's great to see you doing it, because
it's awesome to talk
when
to
I saw
you
were doing it, I was thinking it was, it's a great idea for you, because one thing about you is you're proactive, and I think out of all the things I've learned in life, and there's no secret to it. You show up, you put the work in, and you get results, and you be consistent, and that's it, you know. And there's no other easy way to it, you know. So I've been
100%,
realized that that's it with everything, you know. So and it's better to start and learn as you go than wait till you have everything ready. Like it's like the guy that says, "Oh, I'll go to the gym when I get fit." You won't.
Yeah.
Just show up, put the work in, and be consistent, and that's it. No secret.
Well,
you know.
100%. All right, brother. I will. I'll
Good
give you.
stuff.
I'll shout at you soon. Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Anytime you want me back on.
100%, my man. 100%.
Great stuff.
Thank
Good
you.
to hear you. Thanks, Aaron.
Take care.
Cheers, bro.
Bye.
Bye-bye.